Hey, what's up guys? This is Brian at Whisper Status 74. Welcome to the community. Welcome to the channel. If this is the first time you are seeing me, please consider liking and subscribing. We are real tech for real people. Today's video will be a comparison of the LGCX OLED at 55 inches, which is on top, versus the Sony X950H, which is an LED at the bottom. It is their flagship 4K display for this year. Special thank you to Robert and Wendy Zone of Value Electronics for supplying the X950H for extended review. Check out the description below for their website. Please consider making your next AV purchase through them. Please mention me and the channel. And special thank you to Spears and Munsil. They have an excellent benchmark disc. You can purchase their disc in the description below. Please consider supporting their work. We'll be doing today what is called the Starfield test. We'll be having the Sony X950H in cinema mode out of the box. The only thing changed is local dimming is on high to alleviate blooming, and the CX is also in cinema mode. There has been no calibrations done on either of them to show the most accurate image you'll see out of the box. Now what's important with this test as we run it is you're going to see no help with the camera. There'll be no aperture changes, meaning I won't give one an advantage over the other. You're going to see some fuzziness to the sides of the screen. Try to focus on the middle of the screen. We are in a black room. There are no aperture changes. What's important to look at on the LED in the bottom is the stars seem to show up first and are more plentiful in a lot of these scenes. Keep in mind that the LG is back about 3 or 4 feet. That is a little bit of an issue. So we talk about strengths and weaknesses. Shadow detail on the Sony X950H is definitely a strength. You will not lose any detail. OLEDs, all of them struggle with some type of black crush. Not crushed out of oblivion from what you hear in the comments and what you'll see in this video's comments, which I'm sure. And the blooming that you see on the LED is also not quite as evident. But what's funny is in the stars test, it doesn't show up nearly as much on the camera as it does in person. What I mean by that is sitting behind the camera, the weaknesses of the LED are grayish black, and as those stars sweep to the right, there's a clear transition of the local dimming. For the OLED, as the stars pop in, they sparkle in comparison to the LED where they just appear there. The OLED tends to have the stars look like they're sparkling in, which means they're kind of turning on. Now, as the screen on the OLED, you can't really see it. Obviously, we're in a dark room. It's completely black. The LED is grayish. You can see the transition of the backlight. But on a lot of these tests, you'll see the stars first by a second or two. So when picking one of these two technologies, it's always about which you do prefer. What is your usage? For me, I am in a completely dark room. I appreciate the black level of OLEDs as well as the contrast ratio. In all of these tests, the image of the stars on the OLED is nearly twice as bright as it is on the LED due to the contrast ratio. However, on the LED, there is no loss. The stars are there from beginning to end. Now, is there some pause between the two? I can't say there is because they fade out at the same time. This is running through an HDR splitter. There is no loss. The OLED is a little farther back. You are losing some of the detail on the camera, but you do see more stars, at least I do, with the LED. But what I see with the LED is a brighter left corner as the stars dissipate and as they transition out to the right. Now keep in mind, guys, if you're seeing me for the first time, I couldn't be more neutral. The CX is mine, but it is my reference display. It's not my main display. The LED I've had for 4 months. Doesn't even have to go back anytime soon. If I buy a larger LG and something else beats it next month, I don't take it personal. So being a YouTube person, I'm completely impartial to which performs better. I'll always be a sucker for bright LEDs and specular highlights. That said, experiencing the OLED in my own home for the last 3 months, I can really appreciate the contrast ratio, where the HDR does seem like it's as bright as a much brighter display. For reference, this display, or one of the displays I had in here a few months ago, was the Vizio Quantum XP series, which is nearly 3,000 nits. There's been very few times where I've ever looked at the OLED and said, oh my god, it's so dim I can't watch it. I know it's difficult with the corners being a little bit fuzzy. Please focus on the middle of the screen. Now, if I sound a little curt in my commentary, it's just that the hate that surrounds both these technologies always astounds me. We try to keep things here as positive as possible. But OLED is an extremely hated technology. I have not realized it as much. It's hated a lot of times not only by LED, but also by plasma, which really surprises me. And then LEDs on the same, where the blooming, people talk bloom, bloom, bloom. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. There is no perfect technology. Micro LED, still waiting for that. Mini LED, severe black crush, has been fixed in some updates. But as you can see, the transition of the LED, nothing seems to sparkle, just kind of all is there. It seems like there's more. It is a bigger screen because it's closer, but you are gonna see some loss. However, again, keep in mind that even though the X950H is over 1200 nits of peak brightness, the OLED appears brighter in all of these tests, which says a lot. Now, we did this test with the Sony AAH pretty much the day it came out at Value Electronics with Shane from Spare Change. You can see the live stream of those tests on his channel. And you can see that the Sony AAH had a little bit better in terms of showing a few more stars than the LGCX. Now, what I mean about preference too, guys, there are some people that aren't OLED people and they're not LED people. So when you see those comments, some people have bought a C9 or a CX and absolutely hated the image. Those people aren't wrong. That's their preference. Some have gone from an OLED to an LED and said that it's unwatchable. So neither is wrong. It all really is on what you prefer. Plasma was exactly the same way. It wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but it was the king. But many LED, or at the time LCD owners, watched plasma and said, what's the big deal? So keep that in mind. And why watching more than one channel or reading more than one forum is so important. And while you're watching it, think to yourself, what do I like? Not what does the reviewer like? It's the best way to make your decision when doing research. This video will cut me off at about 10 minutes, so I'll probably stay a little quiet towards the end. You'll see a few more comparisons of the Sony, which I've had forever. And then you'll see a full review of it, and then it goes back. Consider picking up this desk. It is a useful tool. It's very complicated to use, but some of these demos are worth just seeing how your display performs. But ultimately, it's up to you guys. Which do you prefer? I'm going to say goodbye here before the camera cuts me off. Thank you as always. I will see you in the comments. We'll let this run its course. Let me know what you think. Thank you again to Value Electronics.